Blessings and welcome forward to Reasonings Right Here at the Trail Life. I'm your host, the Great Owl, in the presence of my co-host, Brother Ramon Singh. Perfect love. Perfect love. Blessings, Brother Singh. We are, embarking on a new series of videos, and we are advancing, as we always do, topics and ideas and information that sometimes isn't spoken of enough, or the information on it is lacking. Now, of late on my other channel, and also in this channel, we'll be bringing more historic information that relates more than just in a religious context, but it also relates back to the fulfillment of the words of the book of prophecies. Because the shift and the changes in the human culture that will catapult the new day or the end of the ages, right, is also codified in human behavior. And so when the human behavior begins to change, it signals that things are changing. And so the book of the Biblios, the last one, is called Revelation. And so in the book of Revelation, the very essence and etymology of revelation is to reveal. And if you are to reveal something, there's another word called unveil. So unveil and reveal suggests that there's a veiled quality, there's a hidden quality to gnosis, information, and experience. And so because there's this hidden nature to it, there needs to be a revelation where what was hidden from the wise and the prudent shall be revealed unto the babe and the sucklings. Translated into a literal term, we are learning, unlearning, and relearning right applications of information. So, Brother Singh, we're going to talk about the great earthquake, and I'll let you flow into introducing this topic to the audience.
Yes, Brother Sage, man. Can me give thanks? Because last week you told me research Peleg. I said, what? What is Peleg? Because I know something like really pop up in the Bible much.
Yes.
Or stand out.
Absolutely not.
So I said, all right, write it down, go home, research Peleg. Jano found out that in the days of Peleg, the earth was separated.
Yes.
People were scattered upon the face of the earth. You see me?
Continents were formed.
Yeah, continents were formed. So me surprised something that major was right in front of us in the Bible, I will never see it. Because why? Nimrod, the son of Cush. Why? Cush now had children. And then the Bible said, and Cush begat Nimrod. So, Cush had children of his own flesh and blood. And then Cush begat Nimrod, meaning that his wife mingled with a fallen angel.
Okay, no, I understand.
And hence the first giant returned on earth after the flood. The first recorded giant in the Bible.
Yes.
Nimrod.
Yes.
Nimrod, yes. The great warrior.
Yes.
A great hunter before the face of the Lord.
Yes. And
meaning that he was a feisty man.
Yes.
In front of the Lord.
Yes.
His mission was to erase the thought of God. This man despised God. That's why him build the city.
Babel.
Babel.
Yes.
You see me? Because the town named Babel,
Yes, yes.
And then build a tower in it.
Yes.
Why must say it will reach to the heavens?
Yeah, a space observatory, as they call it.
And the father said, this Nimrod, him get together man on earth, return giant to Nephilim.
Yes, yes, yes.
same elite blood. You see me?
Yes.
So him are the first elite blood.
Yes.
When I say reptilian.
Yeah, divine rights to rule.
Yes,
That's the establishment of divine rights to rule right there.
So his mission, that's why so much God start come about now after the flood. Because I say after the flood, everybody know that a God of all creation alone you have to worship.
Absolutely.
Based, you see everything.
Yes.
Him flood everything and save your family.
Yes.
So everybody should know.
It's easier, it's in the genetics.
But Cush wife, who was of the old world.
Oh.
Remember I said the first world people them live up to 1,000, you know.
Yes. They have a longer
So
lifespan.
even while Noah was still alive, he said 10 generations of his grandchildren.
Yes. Yes.
You know?
Yes.
But yeah, what got you?
Well, now so I'm enthralled in listening because even though I was the one that recommended, you know, the knowledge and the information on earth, as we were saying off air, it's interesting to know because no matter how much of us approach it, it's like you get all the angles come alive and the information is more than just on a piece of paper. It becomes alive in your consciousness. And when you were talking, the Lord says to me, when I'm to structure my argument, he kind of told me how to structure it, so I have to go what he says. He says, this is how we structure it. The great earthquake is not just mentioned in the book of Peleg, but we are talking about Revelation that also speak of the great earthquakes as well. Because what happens in the book of Revelation, the book of prophecies, in that chapter, it speaks specifically of the changing geomorphous atmosphere. And I have to say it that way because it's not just in terms of the landmass, but the energy and the frequency because of how technology and everything has advanced, right? This earthquake will be more dangerous than those earthquakes, but with similar end result. So why that is very important? Because we're talking about the great earthquake, and that's very important. Many people would never have heard this in this manner, so we are introducing it not because we are the vanguards of it, because we're trying to make a point. The great earthquake cracked, the terra firma, creating the continents. In Revelation, it says 3/4 of the earth plane will be broken and move into the islands of the deep, or the islands of the deep. The land mass will be broken up and be separated into the islands of the deep. So, naturally, we're going to have another earth-changing event. That is not just a mere shifting of a tectonic plate, but something so tragic it can break an entire known continental landmass into two pieces. More than just our understanding of tectonic. It's a geospatial change. And geospatial means that it is ethereal as much as it is meta and morphic. As much as it is form, it is energy and spirit. So the earth changed when it cracked in those days, because the tribes of the earth got dispersed according to the confusion of this great event. Cultures and civilization got separated. And so, why this is important? Many videos ago we started talking about the landmass of the Americas being a part of the ancient Eastern script that we read and is ascribed to across the river. And that's what we call it. So Africa is not as far from the Americas as it is said to us, first of all. Across the river meant that this place we call Africa, the landmass, was once a part of South America. And the Caribbeans would be right into where we call Arabia and all those places. This is very important. The culture of Hebraic, Chaldean, Amharic, Arabic is spoken across these corridors. Go and look into America and see that all the ancient names that is ascribed to the Biblios in the Bible is also ascribed in America. And Turtle Island, of which the prophecy speaks about, of where the tabernacle of the Lord shall be established. Turtle Island is the lands of Canaan, which is Canada coming all the way down to America, into Mexico, and it forms a turtle. And so the ancient people with the Fez, the Mosh, the Moabite, and the Hebrew with the tassels and the fringes, don't get it confused, have been living the culture of the 10 kingdoms here in the Americas after the separation. So what we call the Hebraic language, what we call the real Jew, there's certain parts from sub-Saharan Africa, from the Horn of South Africa all the way down, up to Ethiopia, that the specific bloodline of the people who kept the rites of the tabernacle, that observe the feast days and observe all of the rites of the ancient kingdom, is still in the Americas. An ancient tribe of Inuits and Alouites up in Canada went to Israel, so-called Israel, modern Israel, not ancient Israel, modern Israel, and we're going to come to that. And they were singing a traditional Inuit song. That's the Eskimos, for those here. And they were chased out of the temple complex they were in Jerusalem. Why, may you say? Because they were singing songs of the 10 kingdoms. The 10 kingdoms went against the other 3 kingdoms. We kept the feast days, we kept the observance. We didn't take on to science and space observation and divination. We didn't take on to the dark orders. We didn't take on to the Semiramis, the Tammuz, the Nimrod, who slept with his own mother. We didn't take unto ourselves the so-called Gilgamesh, Eriduan consciousness. We kept our feast days. That's why I said that Kanu, a Hebrew word, is Patwa and is Taino. So all of us of the Americas, from the Gullah right down, we spake Hebrew. The landmass were one. And so when I say we speaking about how Americans have the genetic makeup of sub-Saharan, and people saying that, oh, that substantiates slave trade, you do not know history. You absolutely do not. And we're not just talking about Mansa Musa and Abu Bakari. We're not just talking about even Amilcar Barker. We're not talking about that movement of the Moorish Europeans into the America. I'm saying that we're aboriginals. The Sarapians, the so-called Siberians, they transmigrated. The Chinese, the Russians, the Tatarians. When I say some things, I'm not being pompous or boastful. Because how could you be? People have fragmented our reality. I'm saying that the Aboriginal Americans are Hebrews. You can call it any modern concoction of some ideology you want to call it. That's just, we are the children that survived from the flood. We are the ancient generation, the Moabites, Canaanites, Phoenicians, right? That's us. Now there have been mixed generations and mixed breeds within those groupings. That's why we have the Europeans, and also it was in certain parts of the Americas. We have the Alouites, the Inuits, that stretched all the way up, even as I said, up into Iceland, Greenland, Denmark, right? Stop thinking of frozen over cold land, the lands of the age of Esau, that Esau will come out of the cracks. Stop thinking about the age of Esau. Think just a little further back in time. All those from up in Canada, those iced over Alaska, all the way back, was part of the old kingdom, Brother Singh. And I don't want people to look at me with wide eyes. The greatest civilization on earth, Haba, has ever known, Haba, has stretched from there, from the tip of Patagonia, all the way up into Iceland and Greenland. Black and comely, I say unto you. So, to understand that the breaking, the great earthquake, separated families. Linguistic etymology and anthropology, I just alluded to it with the Alawites. I alluded to it with the Tainos and Kanu. This is not a lecture series. I can't do everything here. Come and take some serious with me if you want more serious information, right? The issue is that linguistically, and I've said it many times, culturally, study the cultural behaviors of the individuals of the Americas and see where else their culture exists. Everywhere else there is a similitude. These people are transmigratory and are from the same family, of the same ancient culture. So now there's this Tartarian movement to Tartarian or Russianize our existence. I'm not playing no games with nobody, brother Singh. I'm not playing into no Sarapian, Siberian or Tartarian ilk, fable, whatever. I am a Hebrew. And before I name myself a Hebrew, call me original man. Call me Adam Kadmon. Call my mother, my wife, Nikibu Kadmon. But I will not be defined by misinformation. And so the earth's changes are hidden because it reveals a biblical narrative. It is only the Bible that correlates this. It's buried in the Bible, but in anthropology, they're telling you about the age from La Nuna onto the cracking of the continental plates, from Gondwanaland to the shifting continental movements, what we now refer to as the 6 major or 7 major land masses. But there is heritage of the whole earth having gnosis of itself, recording the gnosis of itself. We call these the trirhythms. In circadian, in linguistics, a baby speaks the same tongue, ma and pa, in every language. Ma and pa, Brother Singh. It is an etymology of origins that supersedes all linguistical construction. One language. And I'm not talking about the Lothgate, which is an angelic language. I do not know what the Adamic language is. It is rumored it is angelic. Or it would have been the same that has been termed the Lothgate. I'm not saying it is the Lothgate. But what I'm saying is we had a commonality of speech. Tectonic movement in the great earthquake not only symbolized Babel, the shifting of the continental plates, the destruction of the plain, it symbolized a change of language through isolation. And it refers back to what, so it was in the beginning of this whole epic, so it shall be in the days of the end. I'll put it on next page. It was in the day of Noah, so it shall be in the days of the end. Because in this time, the sequence of the astrological is going to this geomorphology. Things will change without it just purely being because of biological tectonic movement. So geospatial morphing, geospatial morphology, a great bang, a great sound being weapon, right? So in some spaces it's called the original war because God struck the plane with a great weapon, with the utterance of his voice that caused the crack and the destruction. So it is the utterance of God. The Lord remind me to say that. Don't let it be thought of to be just a geological event. Geospatial morphology. God spoke the word. It's a sound weapon that was spoken and cracked the plains. The earth was in harmony. It changed the atmosphere, Brother Singh. It changed the atmosphere of the earth's plane with this. And we're going to go a little bit more into that. So Brother Singh, continue.
Yes, sir. Yeah, man, just for recap, little, as I make the audience aware, say it's the tower, because of the building of the tower and the gathering of the people. A gathering to do abominations, things that the Most High said they must not do. You know? So the Most High scatter them
Yes.
upon the face of the earth. So you have to go wonder, how did the Most High do that for real? You know?
Yes.
How the Most High, they say go home.
Yes.
And they run, go home. You know? No. Him literally caused a great earthquake,
Yes.
split the earth up.
Yes.
What we da call in our science school, what you call it continental drift.
Yes.
'Cause in our school, you know that the continents are drifting.
Yes.
Science teacher that.
Yes.
Come on, figure it out. Yes, I bless up my respect. You know.
Hopeful every time family.
Man
Every
as
time
man.
family. August bro. Yeah.
You see me?
Yeah. Content country.
Yeah. Science, in a science school, teach about continental drift. They have evidence that the continents are drifting. So the Most High drift where the continent them, because we know that rivers were here now. Can remember out of Eden poured many rivers.
4 great rivers.
Yes, I.
That
You
split
see
into
me?
8. We talk about the coming down to eight,
Yes,
man.
I. True, true. So the Most High split up because what? Noah and his children, everybody take a piece of earth.
Yes.
So Ham, Shem and Japheth and his children and his bloodline,
Yes.
them take one section to themselves.
Yes.
You know, Shem take a section, you know, where Abraham come out through. But Abraham end up go Canaan, upper Canaan,
He ended up settling King.
because I wasn't Canaan own. Because remember Canaan get cursed from long time, you know.
Yes.
Because God see everything what did go happen. And you say, why God would have curse you? You see why?
Yes. Yes.
You see me? So we don't know now why the different peoples there on earth and the families them there together.
Yes.
The Most High separate them. So this one world order. And them that I try to build back the tower again.
The 10 toes that can come together, the feet of clay and brass, yeah, the breastplate of iron,
God said separate them, because when you bring the world together,
hati.
because everybody has a one world, one peace, one love. No man, you can't bring children of Satan and the children of God and bring them together and think say harmony are going to do so.
Absolutely not.
They are literal children, bloodline of Satan. That's why the Bible speaks many times of the seed of Satan.
The serpent seed.
You see me? And at them are the elites. At them are the 1%. At them control the world.
Absolutely.
As them say, as Satan own the world.
Yeah.
So his children now,
Yes.
and them are the board members.
Yeah. Them are the administrators of the kingdom.
Yes,
Let's
I.
have a talk it what it is, you know. They are
Yes,
the
I.
We are children of the Most High God, and we administrate His kingdom of light here on earth. They are the children, hallelujah, of Lucifer, the fallen seraphim, and they administrate his dark kingdom, which is the power of displaying over this earth.
Yes,
you know.
I. And the bloodline is not just bloodline. You are still children of Satan. If you're just doing darkness, you become a child of Satan as well.
By
But
conversion.
there is true bloodline
Yes, 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 yes.
of Satan as well.
Absolutely.
But if you're in a darkness, you're going to become his child as well. You're going to be a child of Satan.
You be counted amongst his lot.
Yes, I. So we know now where the different families of earth came from.
Absolutely.
And why it's like everybody to themselves and look to themselves and look how them look and them traditions similar
Yes.
in the same part of the continent.
Yes. Yes.
Because of family
Yes,
and
ma'am.
family traditions. Some people, because Nimrod come in, you know, with many different strange teachings of basically the first world.
Yes. Yes.
Teachings of higher knowledge.
Esotericism
Yes, I.
at its highest level. You know, as you went back to, yeah, the reason why there was a great earthquake, the strike from the Most High to scatter those who were organizing amongst a school of thought called divinations. divinations was using hidden knowledge, knowledge stolen by those fallen seraphims who would go at the crack in the firmament that they fell through, and they would listen into the heavenly realms. And so because they would listen, they would take this knowledge and tell sorcerers and the people they were educating, these great scientists and such, and these pharmacia people, these potions, they would tell them, right, of the events that was forecast, right, of heavenly things. Now, you have the astrological cycle, which is a projection of earth courses of vibrational or theosophic energy, energy that is godlike, that is supposed to emanate among certain times within the earth's existence. These were stolen by these fallen angels and then informed to the initiates, their children, the halflings, right, the Nephilims, right? And they maintain these orders we call the stargates and these portals, right, that are where again geospatial energy connects like an umbilical cord to the living being, because all what we call the planet and the cosmos is a living being, right? And most people don't know this, but it is. There's life that brings forth life. Anyhow, so divinations was the reason. And the Lord is saying, don't move, Jerome. Somebody's trying to force me out. The Lord is saying, don't move. Divination, hey, is the reason why there was a strike, because this is not known, you know. Telescopy, refracting telescope, convex lenses, what we now call astronomy, was the reason they were struck. Because this codification of the astrological events influencing the earth, they were beginning now to chart a contrary course than was written by the Most High. And so they had observatories, hey, they had observatories that was designed to study the astrological movement of the heavenly bodies. The heavenly bodies are called bodies because they are what? Heavenly beings. We need to go back in the word. They are beings to study the movement of the heavenly beings. In the book of Enoch, it tells us that the Lord sends out every star, every sequence of moons in his own time to do unto his creation as he wills them. The book of Enoch also informs us that there are punishments, causalities for celestial bodies, celestial beings being coalesced into a contravenance of the law of God. That's why we are fallen stars, hey, because they are cast out and they are cast down because they are disobedient. Why are they cast down? Because divinators and these towers work mantras, open these stargates, commune. The energy of these celestial bodies we call stars can be absorbed into the human psychology and energy to have control in the psychic realms. Star energy absorption is a high reason why Babel was struck, because people do not know that the heavenly bodies are alive. They are beings. They're not dead, not bodies. They keep saying, pushing me to say bodies. The heavenly beings are alive, and as such, they have a duty, hallelujah, and an order. Breaking that order is a contravenience that has punishment. So divination is when a star, one of these celestial bodies, has been coalesced to the will of sorcerers, fallen angels. They are given secret words to speak, to command these celestial bodies to acknowledge them. That's why they tell rituals on blood moon, that moon, this spot, because geospatially they have to be at certain spots where the magnetic telemetry and energies are the highest. This was why Babel was created. It was at a high, what we know as a meridian. A meridian would be like the wiring system of your computer or of a city grid, but the meridian would be the core of where the energy comes from, the power plant, that frequency, a path along which it goes. That is the meridian. And so Babel was built on a meridian so that the refracting instrument the electromagnetic telescopic instruments could refract light and look into the great firmament. And please remember, the atmosphere at that time, Brother Singh, as I have to reiterate, was far different. The heavens and the earth weren't so far because God and the angels still traveled amongst the mist. We need to read the word, right? So the third heavens is above here. It is where the spirits of the air rule. And so the spirits of the air are those who lurks around the base of the firmament. Those are where the spies, because they're cast down from the crack, they cannot go to the Milky Way anymore. They cannot go to Van Allen to do any kind of research up in that dimension. They cannot go there anymore. They are subject to maybe 180,000 miles. They are just above the stratos, maybe the mesos, but they are, and above the ionosphere, but they are not really up at the base of the firmament. They are not there, right? That's why the true images refract water images and light from the base of the firmament, because it's water from the great ocean that is up there. But be that as it may, they are observing, trying to observe the movement in the celestial realms. That's why the Tower of Babel was built. So when it was destroyed, all of that celestial gnosis, knowledge, that was being absorbed into a structure to bring the heavens to the earth, because I kept telling you that they're trying to build paradise here on earth. Their memory of heaven, that's what the fallen is trying to bring here on earth. And so they built these power plants, these energy systems, which align with these stars. And between me and you, Brother Singh, and our audience, the stars have to willingly give off their energy for the celestial energy, what they call cosmic radiation, to travel into these pyramidal structures and enter until these etheric structures. There are these ether generators for etheric energy to be translated into the electromagnetic spectrum, right? What we call cosmic radiation or cosmic energy, separate and apart from atomic energy, which is burning electrons and neurons or splitting electrons and neurons in the atomic core. Separate and apart from that, it is an etheric energy that is natural, right? It's like taking electricity from the from above the ionosphere, right? And so this is the absorption of cosmic energy. These are why these pyramidal structures were built. And this is why the tower was being built, because it goes up to a point so that the energy can be siphoned down. That's why it was being built. And that's why it's being destroyed. So why is it important? But here we are now, at a time with these colliders and the search of antimatter, that we are at a point where the fragmented pieces of the gnosis, because it changed not just the atmosphere but the mentality of the human consciousness. They could no longer communicate on the level of frequency. When we talk about the one language that they had, the one language, as you know, etymology, language could not be an uttered word only. An utterance would be something external. So language would be an internal process of communication. They still say 60% of language is body language, of communication is body language. So the original human language meant, Brother Singh, I and I there, so you and I, we just have to think. Do you understand? We have to think. We just have to think. So we are thinking in unison. So if we thought we need to build this, it doesn't take long for 5,000 of us to organize and starting to build. When linguistics became verbation, verbatim, verbal, when you had to utter now, your consciousness no longer is speaking in images, sound, wavelength, and particles anymore. Meaning, in actuality, you are fragmented, you are abstracted. And so because of italics being even an abstraction of sound and actions, you say a word, you don't even know that it's a real thing you're saying. Because the word was the actuality. And so because of that, me and you could be reasoning, if we are not followers of Christ and love Yeshua, me and you could be reasoning, Brother Singh, from now till eternity, and can't make sense of reality enough that we could build anything together. You say, but Brother Singh is a smart person, Brother Jerome is a smart person, and why haven't they done anything? I said to you about Seala. Why I've often spoken about companies, but it's pure individualism come out of here except us. So why is that so? Because we communicate in an astral language that does not match verbatim or verbation. The original language was thought and frequency and wavelength before sound. Do you understand? So we didn't need to have a translator. Some of it is in French, some of it is in German. Let's go back. Some of it is in Hebrew, Arabian, Moabite, Phoenician, where you get phonetics from, and phonics and all of them things, the language structure. It's in their etymology. It's in the nomenclatures we speak all the time, in the language structures we use without knowing, right? It is there. It is there that told us we once spoke the same language. But thoughts, we once spoke the same because we thought the same. It was one thought, one harmonious way of thinking, not one thought, one harmonious way of thinking. We call that telepathy today, telekinetic. And from it comes telemetry, as I said, telemetry, which is the telepathic, which is a signal that goes through electrons, electromagnetic communications. Call it an X-ray. It is magnetic vibration. We say you give me a good vibes or you give me a bad vibes. Vibratory communication is higher than spoken word. So they had to strike the tower. God had to strike the tower. Because with that harmonized frequency in the anti-Christos, in the anti-Christ, in the anti-God, what were they going to do? What they have been doing to this day, but they would have done it as a unified mass. What is that? Tell them, the Lord said. Atomic sciences, atomic weapons, hydrogen weapons that not only explodes on the matter, but will touch the antimatter, the fabric of reality. Antimatter. That's where it's at now. This is what all of that was leading to. And that's why judgment of the second earthquake, of the destroying of the plain and the mountains and the nations falling into the deep, is the weapon of God activated, because the weapon of man in these colliders, in all of their amassing of that knowledge, is about to attempt the same thing. And the Lord is just telling me to prove what Lucifer said. He will rise his throne, hey, above the kingdom of heaven. That's what all of that is the attempt to do. That was what it was with Nimrod, and that is what it is now with the Antichrist, which is going to be a renewed version of Nimrod. And before we go back to Brother Singh, to go on the point of the rivers. So in the Bible it speaks of the river Gishon. But in the ancient books, there's clear reference to the great river. And the great river flows from where the great tree is, in the midst of the center of the garden. And from in the midst of the center of the garden, where the great river flows from beneath the trunks of the great tree, which we call the tree of life, it flows and splits into 4 rivers, traveling through the lands of Eden, one of which is called the sweet water of the earth, right? And those 4 rivers coming out of Eden enter into the plane of the earth. At some point, one of those rivers is referred to as the river Gishon. Beyond that, and those who know of the rest of Gnosis can add them in the comments. Also, in the biblical language, we hear of the Euphrates, right? And the Tigris, right? And we also heard of the Nile, right? So we are recognizing that there are 8 great rivers that flowed from the 4 rivers that flowed from out of Eden, that flowed from the one river, right? Which is the great river. So in the earth plane, when the land mass was one, the same great river, all waters go back to the headwaters. All waters go beyond the oceans everywhere to the headwaters, right? So all of it circles back around to Eden, all of this. So if you were to take the actual map of the earth, and you cannot do it with any earth image you've been given, you'd have to research to find the image. The elites have this, so it's not a problem. If you can secure such a map, God bless you. The proper telemetry of the continents on the planet. The original rivers still flows. In Jamaica, I wanted to start in another country, but never start at home. In Jamaica, the great river, right, is the Rio Grande. In America, the great river is the Mississippi. In South America, I should say in North America, the great river is the Mississippi. In South America, the great river is the Amazon. In Australia, the great river is the Mackenzie. In South Africa, it goes on. I can't list all the names of the great rivers. What I'm trying to say is my research has put all the great rivers back into the 8 rivers, back into the 4 rivers, back into the 1 river that flowed out of Eden. The earth is one. Same river. The same river that is in Jamaica. The same river that is in America. The same river that is the Nile. The same river that is the Amazon. The same river that is the Danube. The same river that is the Rhine in Europe. The same river. All these rivers coming magnetically from one headwaters. And when the landmass is back in one, it's one river that splits into 8 tributaries and encircles the plain. The anthropology of the earth is unknown to those who are undereducated or uneducated. Those who sit in esteemed power knows this, and this is the kind of divination and gnosis which we lack. So prophecy tells us of the changes when the geological environment begins to change before the geomorphic change. That great rivers, some of them are going to be starting to what? Dry up. Because their headwaters have been cut off. Because they're all coming from within the garden. That's where they're, hallelujah, all coming from. But because we don't recognize that the rivers even stretch all the way into Antarctica, Siberia, it's no different. They give us these conjoined, I would say, I call them conjoined, disjointed, I should have said, ideologies of the earth plane. And no commonality of linguistic understanding to realize that we are one family. But the splintering of the family has caused an adherence to darkness, falling out of the kingdom to following this fallen seraphim, to then be the progenitor of this fallen seraphim, for that his generations now are the divine rights to rule, because their bloodline gives them a higher intellectual capacity and understanding of all of the astrological gnosis of the planet. So what we are referring to in the book of prophecy as a guide to the faithful is constantly being pervaded upon by them from several angles, least of which is the Nostradamus. Least of which is Nostradamus. There are so many beyond John D. There are so many who have been these Delphic oracles, these oracles of Delphi. But Christ, Emmanuel said, even the oracle of Delphi said the age of the oracles are over, because the circle 7 is here. Behold, the throne on high has come to sojourn with us. Brother.
Yes, sir, man. When you mention the map, after what come to mind is that how the scientists them explain the continents and how they were formed. It was that it was one mass at millions of years ago. And over millions of years it separated.
Hey.
You see me? That's
a claim,
that's what them can come up with. So anytime you hear millions of years, you know said them no know. Them just say, boy, something make this happen, you know. So almost millions of years it take. Because if you look on the map, everything fit into place like a nice little puzzle. Everything
Exactly.
fit together, you wonder why.
Hey. Hallelujah.
Why, you know, why it fit together so nicely, you know? But what? The Most High separate it apart because of man and them ways of destruction. Can remember so the Most High said, boy, like man just want to put evil upon their mind at all time, you know? Because I remember Shem bloodline.
Yes.
Shem bloodline keep the true knowledge of the Creator.
Yes.
Because some people even debate say Melchizedek is Shem. Shem is Melchizedek.
It's a Shemite, yeah.
You know? But, you know, research can do the same way, you know? But Shem is the bloodline that the Israelites came through. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob,
Yes.
Israel.
Yes.
Because Jacob name changed into Israel.
Yes.
Can remember say, because this morning me even look on the Bible and Abraham lived in Canaan, you know?
Yes.
Because God blessed Abraham.
Yes.
God give Canaan to Abraham.
Yes.
And when you check out a couple generations later, the Israelites,
Yes.
the same bloodline of Abraham,
Yes.
their journey was to go back to Canaan.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, God just powerful, man.
Yes. It's a circle, man. The earth is the Lord and the fullness thereof, they and those that dwell therein. Yeah? The principalities are what we call usurping the divine throne. So the God of this world is a fallen seraphim that has set himself up upon the axis of the plane, declaring that he's God over this domain, because he couldn't rule in the heavenly realms because he had no account and hence no accountability such to do. The unfortunate issue with humans is that while we have the spirit of the Elohim within us, we also have a poison in us. Now it is called sin according to the Biblos. And the sin to many people is just because you did wrong. The sin isn't a physiological experience, like just putting it. Sin is a spiritual experience. So something within the spirit of things has caused sin to come onto the plane, because an entanglement of a essential proportion has happened. It is not on the surface, it is deep within. The convenience of the law of God on such a level that replicates itself is sin. So the kingdom of darkness has used the weapons of sin to discredit the souls of the living, to bring individuals over into the kingdom of darkness, to expose a way of life that is forgetful of the kingdom, forgetful of paradise. So the people forget that 5.5 days Adam was given for his generation to sojourn here until the Lord would call us back. So most of the cultures around had an origin story that leads back to every other origin story. And so whether you record it as an Abrahamic faith or it is some what we call aboriginal way of existence, the experience that is being perpetuated is either one that is respectful of God from the ancient world, or one that deviated from that. And so the modern culture has promoted the deviation through the generations of Esau, those who came out of the crack, right? Those who came from those places we talk about that was cold, not just from the Caucasus. They came from all across Indo-Aryan Europe and Asia Minor, all the way up from Siberia, from the Americas. That's the man who later came down into Europe to take over the Phoenician kingdoms, right? To then come into the Americas to take over the Hebrew and the Canaanite kingdoms here, right? What do you want to call them? The Oltec, the Toltecs, you name them, right? The Tainos, all the different groups of the Americas. Going to the Americas, what do you want to talk about? The Lenape, the Blackfoot, you know, all the Aboriginal tribes. When the Dom de Vassier started, Esau basically came over here and said, let's obliterate the old kingdoms, the old ways that were more God, less scientific. Christopher Columbus said the people of the Hebrews of the Americas was the most peaceful, loving people that had no vainness. Why? Because the 7 deadly sins were obliterated. If you followed your traditions and your society was succinct with the ways of God, the astrological scripts, the heavenly bodies, everything was moving in harmony as how we did. If we did that, we would be loving, peaceful, and kind. And they came, enslaved, entered warfare, and brought the curses upon us and started the degeneration of our families. And so that is why we here now is in our homelands and do not know, hey, that we're in our homelands, been given fragmented histories that we're fighting over European, French, Dutch, Italian perspectives. But we can seek and find the truth. We can study the Bible and see the land masses, how they correlate to the actual earth plane. Because where they tell you things are, they're not. And be very careful when 2 things come up. When they say they're talking about places in the Bible. I don't want to make it intellectual. But they're talking about places in the Bible. And then they said, we're talking about ancient Jerusalem. Well, why is there ancient Jerusalem? Well, see, we're smart enough people. Jerusalem is Jerusalem is Jerusalem, right? So why should there be ancient Jerusalem? Oh, I just hear a small thought out of the astral says, well, maybe actually they moved the city from one place to another, and that is to suggest it's still in the same landmass. So maybe it was 150 miles to the east, and you said, well, that's ancient Jerusalem. And now 150 miles here now, present, that is the new Jerusalem. But we're still on the same landmass. Close enough. They say ancient Jerusalem and Jerusalem because ancient Jerusalem is in a completely different, hallelujah, landmass than modern Jerusalem. Ancient Egypt is different from modern Egypt. You have books that state, as I tell you, the Caribbean and the Americas, you have parts of Florida that is just as Egypt is, same names, Arabic names. Arabic names in the Americas, Moabite, Moorish names, ancient Hebraic names, but the Arabic is showing you the relationship between our past world, the ancient world, and the modern world. All right, Goshen, let's use a word like Goshen. Goshen is supposed to be in ancient Egypt. And indeed, Goshen is in ancient Egypt. But Goshen is in modern Egypt. I'm not being facetious, for real. So, Goshen in modern Egypt. You can go there. You can go to the city of Goshen. It's probably renamed, but it's got it. You know, you say, oh, this is modern Egypt, right? But we know over there, yeah? Northeast Africa, right? Goshen is in Indiana. Goshen is in Indiana. United States of America. Ancient Goshen, ancient Salem, ancient Salem. You need to know that's where that is. Salem of the Bible, Salem, America, the Salem witch hunts. What are we talking about? The ancient world. Go do the research. I can't do everything for you. Because you're going to say, I'm indoctrinating you. Brother Singh.
Yeah, man, that's true, man. Research important. Because we go through the Bible so much time, especially Genesis 10 and 11. And it just speak about bloodline. But if you look closely, you realize, hold on, why this one in the time of Peleg, the earth was scattered. Peleg, that is the same time when Nimrod about, you know. You have to put 2 and 2 together when you read the Bible, man. Because it's there plainly in front of us. And we just never see it. So you can't say we know everything. We still have to study the Bible.
Absolutely.
So much deep knowledge, truth, as I said, true geographical history. what we can find in the Bible will explain reality. Because scientists are trying to explain it based on what they say. And they must test and try things. But the most I tell you plainly how things come to be.
Absolutely.
Scientists are saying millions of years it take for the continents drift apart and look like that today. And the most I say, no man, him split it apart. How you know scatter people upon the face of the earth? How? You know, just make them disappear, snap your finger and them disappear and everybody just end up somewhere on earth.
It would seem out of sequence.
And confound them language, make them, they say, what them do? God play some goose upon them mind now and them can't understand nothing. Everybody turn fool.
It was too traumatic, man.
It just don't make no sense.
Yeah,
the only thing that do make sense, in order for that reality of scattering people upon the face of the earth, was the great earthquake.
Yes.
That's the only thing what could have make sense.
Yes.
Why so much people scatter upon the face of the earth and different people and families and different colors? Because God do it.
Yes.
Because I realize if you come together, not worshipping Him, but I do Nimrod ways, worshipping other gods, using technology that we're not supposed to be using, focusing on things we're not supposed to pray. God have all of the answers written down. Because everybody says a book inspired by God, but it's men write it. You say it's just men write it. No man, it's a book of prophecies.
Yes.
And literally God write it.
Yes.
Take out the man part out of it.
Hey.
And God words there so. The words of the Most High. Remember I say, heaven and earth shall pass away, but the words
the power, man,
shall remain the same. You see me?
It's what made everything, ain't it?
So the word eternal, in the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God. The Word was God. The Word was made flesh and dwelt among us.
Yes, aye. So we are clothed in that worthy flesh. You know, it's always good to give Yod He Vav He its praise. Beyond the titles, but to acknowledge right telemetry, which is the right way things function, right? And the seasons, the biological functions of our organism teach us that. Our bodies teach us when we are thirsty, when we are lacking in the right amount of elemental equilibrium. It tells us when we are imbalanced in terms of things that are dry and things that we're lacking in moisture. It teaches us when we are lacking in things that are cold. And it tells us when we are lacking in things that are warm. And when we have too much things that are warm, we have fevers. When we have too much things that are cold, we have, well, flus and pneumonias, right? And when we are looking too dry, we have rashes and irritation, right? And when we are in the air frequency, we have decongestions and we have all these little pathogens coming out of our throat as we're coughing these viruses. So all of these elemental gnosis, all this elemental knowledge, right, is to understand how to properly operate within our biology according to the will of the living God. Now, wrong knowledge teaches wrong telemetry, wrong behaviors, which can make you breathe improperly, think improperly, act improperly. So when you're beginning to decode the knowledge of your own experience, at first you're going to see that certain things are set that way within you, that they are programming it within you. So because it's set that way, you have to unset it and reset it. And you are reset through true information. Prayer and fasting helps some of the most difficult stumbling blocks to move. The rest of those situations, take your time and be informed. Like us, do your investigating, do your research, right? To have more information in your mind with which to inform your thoughts, to inform the way in which you're going to critically analyze things. When you're reading the Bible with that touch of the Holy Spirit within you, it might not be that magnanimous because you're not trusting it like that as yet. But it gives you a little sense. Start see how things align. Trust the Most High Spirit within you to show you. Let it open up that you're not just looking at some disorienting set of words. You are looking at actuality coded in words. And I'm going to say this. No one could ever assume that eternity could be held in some words. But all of what's in the Bible isn't stored in the words that is written on the paper. They retranslate the words all the time. It's not that. It's the spirit of it, hey, that is correct. Because you cannot change the Most High Spirit. You nor I nor nobody can alter it, never. We can alter our interpretation of it. We can rewrite what we think about, what we thought about of it. We cannot change it. So when a person reads in spirit and in truth, what happens? You go into that book and you begin to realize what he's saying. The etymology in the table of genealogy is real. Many didn't know it's real. It seems it's fake. It ain't fake. The names that is in Numbers and those books and Deuteronomy, those names are actual names of people, of family bloodlines, as he's saying, that have actually been here on the earth. All the bloodlines, all of the names. And I want to tell you something. I'm going to use my name. All the names are the same name. All the utterances are the same utterance. I'm just going to use my name. All right? I am, no, not my name. I'm going to use the name I was given. Right? Jerome. Jeremiah. Jeroboam. Should I continue? You want me to go to our native tongue? Geronimo. Still Jerome. Jeroboaz. Still Jerome. Different languages, it's the same name, man. So when the Europeans give you the name of Mary, you say Miriam in another language, you can go on to write down to what Mary is. You know, you say Matara, mother, yeah, or Ia in the South African Zimbabwe, Ia Titi, mother, yeah. It's coming from the same, it's the same etymology it's coming from. But when you understand that you can find the same utterance in every language, linguistically, you are beginning at the base level to put back the script of the human existence in terms of language. And now you see why the scattering wasn't just a scattering of language, but of perception and of the heart. Those whose heart went against God in such desperation and wickedness and witchery and evil are called desperately wicked. They're called vain. They're called sorcerers. Yeah, they're called this in the book of Revelations, right? So they have been cast out because they perverted the ways of the Most High. It wasn't a simple thing like God didn't want man to be smart. Because I hear it being said in the astral while I was talking, you know. It's not that God didn't want man to be smart, God didn't want man to be like them. We said it 1,000 times, he said it. How could you be like God with an immorality, with the power of God? What do immoral men that aren't wholesome do? They create immoral acts when they are with this much power. If you have that much power, how is it that you're going to be moral? Why would power make you moral? Immorality increases with opportunity. The more power you have in an immoral state, the more immoral you're going to be. You don't get less immoral because of the power, you get more immoral because of the power, right? So, man, with all this script knowledge of the astral bodies and know what's going to happen 150, 200 years to come, 300, 500 years, man must not have that intricate of knowledge with the wrong state of mind that is called the gnosis we got from the fallen angel. A satanic knowledge that much. And Satan might not be his real name. Lucifer might just be a title, but whatever his name is, that is some Eve we got. And if you continue that Eve, you're not going to have no soul. You're going to end up in the pits of the flaming judgment. Just like that. Let's sing before we get out of here.
Yeah, look at Seala up now, man.
So we just want to give thanks, you know, for sojourning with us over this past hour, discussing, you know, the great earthquake and what happened prior to our current experience here on earth. All of the reading between the cracks to see the truth coming through. So until next time, this has been a great hour in the presence of my co-host, Brother Ramon Singh. Perfect love. Perfect love.